And thank you, witnesses, expert witnesses, for being here as well. As chairman of the Space Subcommittee and proud representative of Johnson Space Center, I'm a very tireless advocate for NASA. I strongly believe in the mission of NASA, and I commend the tremendous dedication of the NASA and industry team under Mr. Bridenstine and the rest of the team. However, as members of this committee, we have a responsibility to every taxpayer to ensure that government agencies, including NASA, are being good stewards and effective at managing our resources with which they are entrusted. Today's hearing will focus on the serious issues associated with the James Webb Space Telescope program breach and its implications, the independent review board's analysis and recommendations, and the coming debate over congressional reauthorization of JWST. Chairman Smith summarized the IRB's findings and recommendations, so I want to use this opportunity to discuss NASA's lost opportunities due to flagship program cost overruns. As the Space Subcommittee Chairman, I focus on the NASA budget in its entirety and every project and program in the agency's portfolio, particularly those where budget limitations force difficult decisions on reducing specific project budgets or whether we can even fund them at all. Please give your attention to the chart on display. The committee surveyed NASA's science portfolio over the last few fiscal years to identify project budget reductions and unfunded requests due to limitations. These projects are listed by fiscal year, starting on the left there with fiscal year 13 all the way up through fiscal year 19. You can see those. Now, with the fiscal year 18 coming to a close shortly and the IRB's announced JWST cap breach of $803 million in development costs, this chart, the next one, reflects the reality of the breach going into FY19 budget planning. In terms of lost opportunities and NASA's budgetary trade space, it is important to know the full impact of JWST breach caused for the breach caused for NASA and the American public as a whole. So we'll bring up the next one. The $803 million needed to fund the JWST cost breach could fund nearly every one of NASA's science funding shortfalls from FY13 all the way up through FY16. These projects include earth science and education projects greatly promoted by our Democratic colleagues on the committee. And looking forward to FY19 and NASA's future flagship program plans, the cost issues with the Wide Field Infrared Survey Telescope, or WFIRST, will become a subject of debate right alongside JWST congressional reauthorization. The FY18 omnibus required an updated life cycle cost estimate for WFIRST, and NASA's report concludes the estimated cost range is $3.3 billion to $3.9 billion. This life cycle cost estimate exceeds the NASA-imposed cost cap of $3.2 billion, included in the bipartisan NASA Authorization Act of 2018. To give perspective to the funding dilemma presented by JWST and WFIRST cost issues, NASA's WFIRST estimate includes a request for $371 million, which is now reflected on the FY19 chart. Thank you. The bipartisan NASA Authorization Act of 2018 seeks to limit flagship program overlap to reduce NASA's risk of becoming overwhelmed by WFIRST development before JWST is operational in space. Thus, it is my hope the IRB report and our witness panel testimony will shed some light on lessons learned with JWST and lead to a successful flight and operations in March of 2021. We do not want these mistakes repeated during the development of WFIRST. Congress needs to understand the unvarnished truth of the status of these programs today, as well as the plan going forward. Decisions made now can have long-lasting implications on future missions. We need to know that there is not a systematic or a fundamental management problem with how NASA plans and executes these larger strategic missions. And I want to thank the witnesses here today, helping us to better understand where we are and how we plan to move forward. And I look forward to your testimony. And I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Babin.
Yes, sir.
The gentleman from California, Mr. Barra, the ranking member of the Space